Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, this is Ivy Slater. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. For those of you just tuning in, we are in the middle of a fabulous series. It's all about women leaders in the cybersecurity space. So for those who didn't get the intro to these episodes, I do things that I'm curious about. And cybersecurity is an up and coming field. It's a field that is here today and it's here to stay and get bigger and bigger. And I wanted to start learning more and more on the ground floor from the women leaders who are ensconced in it. So it is my honor and my pleasure to introduce today Leah Freiman. Leah is the CEO of an MSSP cybersecurity and IT managed service provider. She provides services to companies looking for a secure environment with a great experience. And what I adore about Leah is she gets both the high integrity of the importance of the deliverable with a high customer service experience. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's jump right in. A mom of a bunch of children, I always say when I was growing up, I wanted to be, and cybersecurity wasn't even in the you can't finish a sentence when we were younger with that. No. So where did this evolve for you?
I became a mom very young. I was 20 years old when my first child was born. And being Jewish and Hasidic, my husband was learning the Torah all day. And I was working. I was a mortgage broker, a very successful mortgage broker, doing very nicely. And until 2008, when we had our third child and the market crashed.
Yeah, the mortgages in 2008, the whole mortgage market went kaput in a simple way.
That's it. Yep. So I didn't have a good client list. My client list was all CD buyers, people in foreclosure and all that stuff. So I needed to do something. So I was either going to revamp my mortgage business, right? Or it was time for me to be a full-time mom and my husband could go out to work, which is what we decided to do. And being a music teacher, there was always that side money coming in.
So the side hustle is to the mortgage business. So you basically had a mortgage business and two side hustles. It was like raising kids as well as then you being a music teacher.
Yep, something like it. So I love the music. If I could go back to being a music teacher, I would do it. I love the music. So my husband went out. He's very, very humble, very quiet. And he found a job as an IT person. He's like, computers, I know how to learn stuff. I like to learn new stuff. Why not? And after 8 months, that job wasn't for him. And the company actually closed down as he left. So he decided to go to New Horizon, which is a computer learning center across the entire United States. And he loved it. And we started in our third bedroom with little kids. I was like, you know what? He's like, he couldn't find a job basically after he did all that. And he said, I can't run a business. So I told him, look, I was in sales. I can run a business. I could do that stuff. Why don't you just do the technical part of it and I'll do the sales? So we started off as an IT company. It's called Break Fix. Just very basic. You bring in computer, it's broken, we fix it, we charge you. But we realized very quickly that there was no money to be made in that field. Because once you touch somebody's computer, you are, what's the word? You're kind of a slave to them for the rest of your life.
Oh, 100%. Because I remember in the early days of Slater Success, when I left printing, I got my first blank computer. I'm not going to throw names out there. And here I was in business, by myself with no support, a VA in Georgia. I'm used to a full staff, like outside my office door. Yeah, as a printer. And I'm like, how do I fix this? This doesn't do this. And who do I call? And you're right. I found my computer guy. And I think I was could have been your worst client. I was his worst nightmare. And you become a slave to these little tasks and there's no way to earn a living there.
Absolutely. So yes, that's how it was. There was no way to earn a living. And we were just kind of a slave, and nobody was happy. We weren't happy because we weren't charging, and they weren't happy because there was always problems with the computer. So then we heard about the MSP model, which is managed services. We charge you a monthly fee and we take care. And we went away from the homeowners, the one computer,
the small mom and pops, the individual person,
Exactly.
The solo people it was their lifeline, but there was no expansion there.
No. And also you're talking about someone that is doing, let's say, $150,000 a year with one computer, right? For him to spend $500 on fixing a computer, it means a lot. But a business that's doing 100, 200, 300 million a year, for them, okay, so we'll give you 500 up, 500 down. It doesn't matter that much. We were in the bigger picture of giving service, and IT as a whole is a service business. So we really, really had to do that service piece. And that's the only way we were able to do it. So we kind of transitioned over to an MSP, but we were always, when we named the company, even in 2008, when we were doing break fix, we called it ItCon, which is IT consulting, because
Nice.
that was actually, that was my husband's vision. He said, you don't want to stay a break fix guy. You don't want to stay a computer guy, because you want to go into the future, which is consulting. You don't want to constantly be doing your physical work, right? So it was a very good foresight of what we're doing today. And when we kind of got into the MSP field, we kept saying, okay, what are the products? What are the trends? Where are we going with this? And cybersecurity is something that kept coming up. People are being hacked, and we realized that that's where the market is going. And I've told this to people a couple of years ago, and I say it now: if you're in IT and you're not going towards cybersecurity, then you're finishing school at 8th grade and you're not going to high school. You're going to stay stuck somewhere. So,
It makes perfect sense, because once even thinking about myself as a small business, right? I am a small business. It's under $10 million by definition. Now, so, a small business with a smaller team, but we are taking information in. We run a newsletter. We acquire data. We acquire, people pay for things, right? So now all of a sudden, how, as a smaller business, as well as a bigger business, do we protect ourselves? And that's where even, we all have to be learning about cybersecurity, in that sense of how do we protect our companies that protect our clients?
Absolutely. So it's a great question, because people think that cybersecurity is for the Pentagon, the government, Verizon, Chase, right? They need cybersecurity because they have, or people that have a compliance and like that, they need it. In truth, everybody needs it. And there was a scary story of somebody that was doing, she was a dog sitter, and how she was hacked, and they made her bring Bitcoin. This was years ago when they would still get the Bitcoin, right? The physical Bitcoin, and go over and drop it. And it was a very scary story. And people are constantly asking me, I don't have anything that the hacker wants. I'm a small business. I don't need to protect myself. Or the question that you just asked, which was, I'm such a small business, I can't pay $1 million a year to protect myself. I might as well not be in business. So what am I going to do about it? And the answer is that there's the basic cybersecurity, certification. It's called the CISSP, which is a cybersecurity consultant. And the first chapter talks about what does it take to give cybersecurity. That means look at the company, look at the size, look at the need, look at what they can afford, and bring that together. Yes, they're going to add some kind of cost, but it's not going to be $1 million a year. You don't have to do that, right? So number one, what do the hackers want from you? It's not about what they want from your stuff. They don't have anything out of your Excel sheets, but they know that you want your Excel sheets, right?
Right.
That your information, your pictures are worth $1 million. The information is worth a lot to you. And that's why they're going to go after anybody. And number two, what can I do is, I want to say that 85% of what you can do is end user education.
Okay, so explain that more. What does end user education mean?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, let's say you and I were walking in the street, right? And a bear was running after us. Do I have to run away from the bear?
Yeah. Well,
the answer is no. I have to run away from you, because the bear is going to catch the first person that it could, right? So if I run just a little faster than you, then I'm safe. It's the same way with cybersecurity. Hackers, there's targeted attacks and untargeted attacks. A targeted means I hate you, or I want to get you, and I'm going to target you, Ivy Slater, and I'm going to get you and get your information. You're never going to be able to circumvent that attack as much as you try. And that's why the government is getting hacked. And that's why healthcare is getting hacked and medical practices, because these are people that want to attack these people, and they're hiring professional hackers. There's nothing to do about that. But that's 0.01% of the hacks. 99.9% of the hacks are people that are ignorant. They just don't know. When I say end user education, I mean people like you and I, people that are using a computer. Learn what you should and what you shouldn't do. Learn what hackers are. Learn what you have to know. Learn how their emails come in. Most hacks happen from a phishing attack. Learn to look at a sent address and an inbox, right? Learn all these things. Learn to trust your gut. Learn to pick up the phone and ask somebody, did you actually send me that email? Right? So end user education is training the user that's using the computer how to be careful. That is, I want to say, the most important piece of cybersecurity. And of course, if you're a company, you want to set yourself up in a secure way, you want to do conditional accessing. That means that nobody in other countries can actually even log into your stuff, right? So if you're traveling, you would have to tell your IT guy, I'm traveling, open up the country for me. Or you want to have a good router, you want to have a good content filter so you have no bad stuff coming into your computer, right? So you want to do all that stuff. A password manager is really important, because the first thing a hacker does, he comes onto your computer and he looks at your Google Chrome and where you save all your passwords, and voila, he has everything. So all this stuff is very, very important. But if you're going to have a house and you're going to leave your 7-year-old child alone in that house because you have the best security system, all he has to do is put in the code and then you let the robber in, right? So it's the same idea with security. You can do the fanciest. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have a security system in a house, but that means that you have to teach your child the security system is only going to go as far as what you allow it to do, right? So it's the same thing here. Your cybersecurity systems are only going to go as far as what you allow it to do. So the end user, the ones using the computer, have to be taught and have to know, and constant education. That, in my opinion, is the number one thing a person has to do.
And you've been such a leading innovator in the moving from IT to cybersecurity. You've started forming a conference around this called ItCon. And I was fascinated, when I read about it and I started hearing more about this and then asking you questions about it, I was like, that's brilliant. I mean, so share a little bit of where that vision came from and why it's such an important component in, because what we have, listeners, and get this, we're all in a variety of different businesses, okay? And we're all in great businesses. I hope you love your business. If you're not, think about that. In that way, though, why I'm asking Leah to share a little bit about the development of ItCon and moving forward is it sparks our creativity and it sparks our vision of what we could be thinking about in our own industries. So Leah, if you can give us a moment and let us know where this developed and where you're going with this.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to start off with a story. My son was in first grade and he had a classmate that bought something that was not appropriate for a first grader in the school. And it was kind of high tech. In my kid's school, we don't do any tech. And I called up the principal and, he's a rabbi. And I said, do you know that the kid bought in some high tech thing in school and I'm not really happy about it? And he says, no, I didn't know. I said, well, you gotta know. And he says, I'm a rabbi. I don't know this stuff. I don't have a computer, a smartphone, internet. I've never even been on the internet. I don't know this stuff, And my answer to him was, if you're going to be the principal of my son's school, you're going to have to know, because that's where the world is going. It's going towards kids having access to everything, kids having access to high tech, right? And you cannot not know. It's your job and your responsibility to know. so that's actually where the idea of ItCon 2019 came up. And I said, I'm having such a hard time telling people you have to spend $5 a month or $3 a month per employee on a password manager. What do I need it for? I didn't have it till now. It was fine. Yeah, it's right that you didn't have it till now, but that's because the world changed and the world is changing. And there were so many conferences that I was going to, amazing conferences with amazing speakers, and I loved it. And I was like, why can't I bring this to my clients, to people out there, so that they should know that that's where the world is going. That's where it's headed to. So the idea of ItCon 2019 was a no geek speak, no jargon, right? Well, it was just for business owners to learn what is going on in the world with IT and with cybersecurity. And this was in 2019, right? And then already I was talking about end user. That was my speech, actually, about end user training, right, which is what I spoke about before. My speech, we had a live hacker there showing them. We had true stories of crazy true stories. I can't begin to tell you. And these are people that are, it's your accountant that's speaking up there, right? I invited a very, very well-known accountant in the community. Like, they have about 250 employees, lots of different offices. And one of their accountants was saying a story that happened to him, talking about the stores that we all go to, right? And it just came to life and it became real. And it was something like, wow, I do have to now invest in this. And if that means, one of my clients told me, if that means that I have to raise my prices by 10 cents or 20 cents an item, yes, that might mean it, because I have to cover this cost. I have no choice but to do it. And now there comes different compliances. Like if you're hosting a program on Amazon that connects to Amazon, they'll make you go through an audit, and people begrudgingly will do it. And I have a client I just did a quarterly business review with, and he says, I only hired you guys because Amazon kind of made me do this. But then once I hired you for your full package and all that stuff. So I said, you know what? You did so much security, and you really helped, because you have a program that people log into, thousands of people log into, and there was so much hardening and security that was done. It was for your good. I mean, he's very happy that he did it, but nobody thinks about it before most of my clients come to me after a big hack.
Right. And it's always like, we closed the kennel dog after the dog ran away.
Yes.
And then we learn, how do we put safety measures in place for whatever needs to be kept safe. And the theme of this month is, how do we keep our businesses safe? What do we need to know?
What you need to know is, A, educate your end users. B, do not trust your IT guy. I am that IT guy, and I'm telling you, don't trust me. Verify, get reports, ask them for information, find out, what is my IT guy supposed to be doing? What else is available out there? And you can do a quick Google search with 10 things. Ask them 10 questions. I want to make sure you're doing right by me. Because if they're not doing those basic 10 things, then they're not doing right by you, right? Go out there and get a third-party, independent audit. It'll cost you a couple of bucks, but it's so worth it, because they're going to come back and tell you, this is good, this is not good. I do a third-party independent audits all the time. I came back to one company, a local company, and I said, you guys are fine. Your guy is doing everything possible. I have hackers on staff, and they were trying to hack. They were going through every checklist, everything, and these guys were great. Now, could they have done more? Maybe, but they were a 10-user environment. There was no reason for them to do more. Right? So what you need to know is verify, and respect your person, but verify it. And if it means going to a third party just for verification, that's fine. And by the way, what you inspect gets respected. That means if you go to your IT guy and you're inspecting his work, you're asking for reports, you're asking, I'm interested in knowing because this is the basis of my business, then they're going to respect you, and they're going to put so much more effort into your company.
So Leah, share with us, is there going to be an ItCon 2021 or an ItCon 2022?
Yes, ItCon 2021 in May. And I'm super excited about it. It's going to be a very close. No,
2022.
Sorry.
May 2022.
May 2022.
I gotcha.
I'm Jewish. The new year started today.
I hear you.
So yeah, I'm only doing it for 100 people. And it's going to be a very upscale, deep full day of learning. Last time we had 250 people, and I was very happy that we had so many people, but I didn't feel like I was able to get across to everybody. This is going to be only for 100 people, very serious people. I'm looking for people that want to learn, want to understand, want to verify, want to inspect, and want to stay safe.
Leah, how can our listeners continue to follow you, learn more, and know more about you and your companies?
Absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn, Queen of Cybersecurity.
Right,
Leah
Queen of
Freiman.
Cybersecurity. And I love that because it's so clear.
And you can give out my email address. I mean, it's open to everybody. It's L Freiman, Freiman at ItConinc.com. And I'm always available to speak to people. I speak to a lot of people that are interested in going into the field. And there's one more thing, if I can add one more piece, is that cybersecurity is not a field in and of itself. So it's high school, like I said before. And a lot of people ask me, there's a course in cybersecurity. I'm like, do you know how to turn on a computer? They're like, no, but it's cybersecurity. It's not something else. It's the same thing. It's just the next level. So the same way we were in IT and we looked around the corner, we said, that's where the trend is going. You cannot start at the trend. You always have to start at the bottom, especially in this business. You start at the bottom and you go up because you need all that knowledge to get to the next level.
And that makes an enormous amount of sense for you with your music background, me with my dance background. It always
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was a dancer for 20 years. I've actually, my advanced degree is in dance and communication, but it always goes back to the foundation. It always goes back to what are those first notes you learn? What is the first, right? The first thing, the scales, the bar work in dance, the scales in music, and it's going back and understanding the foundation and building off that. Leah Freiman, thank you so much for joining me here today on Her Success Story.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And any of you listeners want to reach out, I'm more than happy.
And listeners, know to always hit subscribe. We come into your inbox with great interviews like today with Leah every Monday morning. Also, I will always say, by showing up, honor yourself. And here's what I mean. If you've showed up here today to actually spend some time with Leah and myself, take a moment and say, what did I take away from listening? And then what am I going to implement forward? That's where real growth is. Thanks again for joining me here today at Her Success Stories. See you next week.
Your approval anymore, 'cause I've got mine.